Cincinnati's back in the orange and black. Cincinnati on the map, baby, tell me where you at. In the jungle, who they bringing it back to the jungle. Every game day, yeah, the jungle's back. Got the natty pack in the orange and black stripes.
Welcome, everybody, to the Grueling Truth Cincinnati Bengals weekly show. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Sorry to say my normal co-host, Joe Kelly, can't be here this morning. A little early for Joe. I know Joe's got to work. Got a special guest today. We got Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator, Ken Zampese. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great.
All right. Now, I haven't seen a lot of interviews on you around here, especially about your past. But you want to talk to us a little bit how you got started off coaching football? I know your dad is a coaching legend, helped, with the Air Coryell San Diego Chargers of the 70s, early 80s. Just tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, I was finishing up my last year at University of San Diego, and I was a business major. I was going to plan to go out and interview and get a job, and then as soon as I graduated, I realized I didn't want to work. So I went to graduate school and started as a graduate assistant coaching and thought I'd try that route. And, I took to it. I really enjoyed the work, really enjoyed the ability to compete in a similar way on the football field, not physically, but mentally and coaching players to do it the way you want them to do it and do it together and do it successfully. And that was a lot more appealing to me than the other.
Yeah. So let's see, you were probably around 10, 11 years old when your dad was in San Diego with Coach Coryell, had some great coaching staffs. What do you remember about that time in your life?
Well, I remember going to training camp, having a chance to meet those players and be around them every day and just see how much passion they had for their work and how important it was to them, but at the same time the ability to laugh and enjoy each other, enjoy the different personalities that came up, but business was business, and it was interesting just to see how those personalities played out and just their passion played out on a day-to-day basis. I remember the domino games at night.
Yeah, domino games at night, probably. I've coached for like 20, 25 years, the last 6 arena football, indoor football, so I'm sure that it was an experience for a kid in his teenage years and before to be hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, what's been nice is I've come back into contact with them through being in the NFL. You run into Dan Fouts doing your show, or Charlie Joyner coached, Wes Chandler coached. The different guys you run into along the way. Anthony Munoz lives in our town, so he wasn't on our team. I just love him, so it's been exciting.
Yeah, Anthony's a great guy. I actually got to meet him at Mardi Gras they do over in northern Kentucky about 3 years ago. He was the Grand Marshal, but great guy. A little weird to shake his hand, though. His fingers are going all which ways.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
No, I just say he earned it.
Yeah, greatest football player that ever lived for my money.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right, so you start off at USC as a graduate assistant, 1990-91. Who was the head coach then, Larry Smith?
Oh, it was Larry Smith was there at the time. He had just came in for Ted Tollner, who worked with my dad at San Diego State even before the Chargers. So I come in there with Coach Smith, and on that staff with John Masco, coaching the offensive line of Carolina right now. Clarence Shellman was with the running backs. He coached in the NFL for a number of years and retired. They're just some really, really good coaches. Bob Cope, former head coach of Pacific, was on the staff. It was fantastic. It was a great learning experience for me. Bobby April, longtime special teams coach in the NFL. It's the guy I worked for with the secondary, along with Bob Cope. And, it was just so much fun. We were in the process of getting the graduation rates up and the entrance acceptance rates up. And in the process, typically the football goes down. So right at the tail end of my time there, it was starting to head the other way.
Yeah. So was your goal to eventually coach in the NFL, or were you happy in college?
I loved college, but I didn't have my sights on, I'm going to be an NFL coach, because I saw that I would be like saying I want to be an NFL player. As a kid, the odds are just stacked against you. So I wanted to have my guys play really, really well everywhere I went and to have fun with the guys I was with. And I figured if I could do that, then whatever happens was going to be good for me. And, you just keep chasing jobs, and sometimes you do well and you move on, and sometimes you don't do well and they ask you to leave. And all those different processes played out as we just kind of chased jobs around the country, and then came to Cincinnati.
Okay, so your first NFL job you took, I believe it was with the Philadelphia Eagles and Ray Rhodes, who had a really talented staff with him. What was the difference being an assistant at the college level and the NFL level, especially with a dad that is basically a coaching legend?
You're different. You're a different involvement with the players, but the difference between 18 to 22 and 23 to 33, that's a huge difference in the maturity of the person that you're dealing with. You're everything to those high school kids. You're in much more contact with the parents because you're with recruiting. And you have the stick on them because it's a scholarship. They're gonna do it how you want them to do it. You have competition a lot because you have so many players you can have on a team. And it was a really, really good environment. It was very easy to build the chemistry year to year. These guys are very eager. And it was a lot of fun at the college level. Now, the NFL level, it's fun because you are competing with just the fewest that are capable in the human population to do what they're doing, which is so much fun. And you're always appealing to their desire to be the best ever, to be the best that they are. It's quite a challenge.
Yeah, and of course, as you said, it can go job to job real quick. 1999, you end up in Green Bay. I believe you were under one of the quarterbacks coach there, Mike McCarthy.
He was a quarterbacks coach. What a fabulous football coach.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about Coach McCarthy?
I just watched him on a daily basis. I worked specifically with him and the quarterback, and just watched him on a daily basis prepare, present, and interact. He's got everything. He's got it all. He's got the football background. It's based in run and pass. He came up through Paul Hackett, who anybody who comes up through Paul Hackett has a great background in the X's and O's and organizational skills. And Mike just has a fabulous way about him to communicate that is fun yet challenging to the player. He's very unique. There's very few like him, and I'm not surprised that he's having the success that he's having.
Yeah, and you talk about that. You were with Ray Rhodes, Mike McCarthy. It's a lot of the West Coast offense. You had your father's vertical game that I guess you grew up with. I mean, is that something that you've kind of meshed the two together to come up with your own offensive playbook? Well,
we've had our own offense here in Cincinnati that's been successful, so we're continuing with that, and then everybody has their own personality to it, and we all take it where we want to take it. But I didn't want to deviate from it because it's what our guys know. It's been successful. There's no sense in making a complete switch around to something else that you haven't coached for so many years than to be in what you're in and just modify it certain ways that you think can help you be better.
Yeah, and then you had the experience of 2000 assisting Mike Martz with The Greatest Show on Turf. I mean, you get to coach Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, guys like that. You want to talk a little bit about that experience?
That was fantastic. Again, being around guys that it's never too big for any of those guys. And the one thing I took away from that offensive group, I asked Ricky Prohl this, just what made them special, what made the group special. And he said, nobody wanted to be the guy that let the other guy down. So they would go and not tap out of the huddle because they never wanted to be the guy that felt like they let somebody else down in there by tapping out on a long drive or whatever it had to be. And if you can get your group, that's what we all aspire to get our groups to, that kind of bond synergy. And those guys had it, and they're so competitive and they're so prideful that they just wanted to do that for the other guy, and it was about the other guy, which was so special about that group. And it's not surprising they had the success that they had as a group. Not only were there Hall of Famers all up and down that, the role players were fabulous.
Yeah, and that was a great football team. You got there right after they won the Super Bowl. You got to experience coaching in the Super Bowl 36 against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Double-figure favorites. I'm thinking, hey, we're not only going to win this thing, we're going to have a chance to get an extra paycheck, which at that time, would have been really, really big for everybody. And, man, it didn't happen that way. We got the lead. I think we're a 1-point lead there late in the fourth with 2-something left. And then we watched Brady throw checkdowns all the way down the field, and then Vinatieri kicks a 48 or 52-yard something to beat us. It was just, how did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, and we talk about it. Like this year, you had the Falcons who lost a big lead at the end of the Super Bowl. Is there any carryover when you lose the Super Bowl in the last seconds like that you think you have won?
Carry over to the next year?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a huge. I mean, losing the Super Bowl is just it's devastating because you never think you're going to lose in the first place. Everybody tells you you're going to win with 10-point lead. Vegas is telling you you're going to win, and then you go in and it doesn't happen that way. Losing any game hurts, but losing the one that is going to put a ring on your finger and immortalize your team that you're a part of, it compounds the negativity of the loss, the impact of the loss. It's hard to shake it. It's really that hangover thing's legit. And the malaise of winning is legit too. You win the Super Bowl, I think you see that around the league. Teams sometimes don't fare as well.
Yeah, well, it's hard to prepare when you've already accomplished what you set out to accomplish, I would think.
Yeah. It's a great coaching job. The teams that go to the Super Bowl and come back and win again the next year, that coaching job is super. Because you have to find another carrot to dangle.
It doesn't happen very often, too.
Exactly. I mean, what's the next carrot?
Yeah, there is none other than to be one of the few teams that have done it back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we get to 2003. How did you end up joining the Bengals when Coach Marvin Lewis took over?
Well, we were going to do it the year before when he had an opportunity to go to Tampa Bay, and that fell through, and they traded picks for Gruden. I think all that happened. So it just came up the next year where we kind of had talked about it the year before, so that was kind of smooth. We flew me out for an interview to see the place, and we found a match. Yeah,
and you were with Marvin Lewis, first coaching job he had. The Bengals hadn't had a winning record since 1990. What did he do to change the culture as quickly as he did? Went from being, I think 2 wins in 2002 to winning 8 games and almost making the playoffs in 2003. What was the culture change that Marvin used, or what did he do to get everything turned around so quickly?
Well, I didn't know it before that, so I don't have a gauge for the difference. Maybe some of the players might have a better gauge for that. I just know he brings organizational skills. He brings just the knowledge of the game in every facet, the game management, the defense, how it relates to the offense. His communication skills are so good, and his ability to hold the bar up every day, the standard up every day for every one of us to follow, made a big difference for those guys, I'm sure. And then we had some players that were high-end players. That the team had picked so high for so long. That Willie Anderson's there. We still had the running back from Washington there. We had a couple of those receivers were pretty good. We had Hushmanzada and Chad Johnson at the time. Just got picked the year before. So there were some really, really good players in there.
All right, so you get to 2005. And a team that hadn't won a playoff game in 14 or 15 years. You have the great run. You beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh to win the division. I mean, what was it like being a part of that team?
Well, that team really had it going. The attack mentality, playing fast. I think we just switched to a no-huddle style offense, but we did it with base personnel as much as anything else, which is unique. I don't think many people had done that at the time. We were a fullback-based team, and it was just fun to operate that way. We had John Kitna the first year, and we had flipped it, and Carson's going now, and he's such he can throw it anywhere he wants to. with touch, with zip, whatever he wants to. He's such a skilled player at the position. It was so much fun to be around him, and if he wants to go and attack all the time, and he had receivers, that were that way, and our style of offense was that way, and it was a heck of a year offensively.
Now, you got Carson, 2003 draft. What was he like to work with? And I know he was a special player for you guys. Do you want to talk a little bit about Carson?
He's a hell of a guy. He's a dear friend of mine. We've been through a lot together. Part of hand-picking him. And whenever you pick a player, and you're coaching quarterbacks, you're the coordinator, you pick a quarterback, and this is this is our future type guy, and it's the first pick in the draft, all eyes are on you. Your reputation, your everything rides on the success of that player, and he certainly held up his end of the bargain. Just the competitive nature of that guy, his ability to communicate to the rest around, his likability to create a unit that really enjoyed playing together. He's physically tough. He's mentally tough. He does not back down from any challenge, and he was just great. He carried the standard every day as well.
All right, in 2011, we'll go ahead and skip it forward a little bit because I know you're on vacation. Don't want to keep you too long, but you guys drafted Andy Dalton out of TCU. You want to kind of compare and contrast him with Carson?
Not really, but we're sitting there picking whoever we picked was going to be our starter, which is a unique situation. And we may or may not pick him up high. So you had to know about a lot of guys in depth and detail. So we caravanned around the country having private workouts with players, similar to how you're reading about other teams doing that now. We did that back then. And we're trying to come to a conclusion on who best fits us. And if not him, then who? And those kind of questions we're trying to answer as we go around the country seeing these guys. It was fun to do that. It bonded us as a staff. It bonded us with the scouts. It was really a good exercise, and we came to a very concise conclusion, and we all felt the same way about it, that Andy Dalton was the best player to lead our team that year. Of the guys we're picking from, that is the best guy that we'd get our hands on. So it was really it wasn't where you had to pick early in that first round to get him. So we were able to pick A.J. Green first, and then we just kept our fingers crossed that Andy was going to be available when we picked next. And sure enough, but whoever that person was not going to have a spring, was not going to have any prep time going into training camp. That person had to be mature enough to handle a playbook really all by himself, to walk in training camp and be able to speak it and execute it. Do you think any of these kids Dalton, this year can do that?
Yeah, no. I mean, you talk about it. What do you look for in a college quarterback to fit your offense?
Well, I think that in general across the board, if you have to pick a guy that plays early, there's a difference. Are we going to be able to hold this guy for, a year, 2, 3, or is this guy, are we going to throw him to the wolves? So once you've answered that question, then it lets you move into a realm a little different. So if the guy has to play right away, he better be very grounded, know exactly who he is as a person. There's no time for that. There's no mental space to figure out who you are as a professional, and then actually your playbook, your players, and all the relationships that go around and are involved in all that. He's a guy who knows exactly who he is, that has a stable support system, that's done it for multiple years in college, that has a consistency about the way he goes about his business, that allows him to weather the storms, because the whole system is built up to take those guys to their knees, to prop them up during the draft process. This guy is this guy is going to be this guy is going to be this. And as soon as they get a chance to play at the NFL level, well, he's not good enough at this, well, he hasn't done this yet. And all these obstacles get placed in front of him that if the guy is not of sound mind and body, will occupy so much mental space, and there's so much head trash that he can't wrap his mind around what he's supposed to do, like a game plan, sleep and eat right, develop relationships in the locker room, because there's too much going on in his head that's not football.
Yeah, and I would think it would help coming from Gary Patterson, who is one of the finest coaches in college football.
Oh, I'm with you there. He is so good. To take a team from where that team was and to put it where it is today, That almost never happens. That's why Kansas State,
and especially to
going
continue to do it.
Yeah, year after year. I mean, there's some great coaching examples around, and that's one of them.
And another guy you brought up was A.J. Green, who I think if every wide receiver was like him, this would be a better world, Coach. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't seem to cause any trouble at any time. He goes out, he does his job. You want to talk a little bit about A.J.?
Yeah, I have just a huge amount of respect and love for him. I've watched him go about his business, and he wanted to be the anti-whatever type receiver. And he's so good at keeping the important things important. My game, what I am to my teammates, winning, those are the things that are important to him. And saw it last year when he had the hamstring deal, how hard he worked to get back with us. That was just such a great example of what a teammate looks like. You're not in with the group, you're not able to play, but your role now is be the best rehab guy that we have on the team. And that's exactly what he did. His role changed. He accepted it. He took it on because he didn't want to let us down.
Yeah, and he was fighting to get back for a team that really had nothing left to play for, as a fan would say. You know, the team was below 500, but his big thing was to get back and contribute with his teammates because they relied on him.
It says a lot about the person. And when you add people like that, coupled with physical talent, then you got a chance to be really, really good.
All right, so that brings us to this year. I know you've lost Rex Burkhead, Kevin Zeitler, Andrew Whitworth. What do you see for this team going forward?
Well, we have 11 draft picks. We're going to end up adding some fabulous football players, and I would imagine around about half of those would be on offense, I would imagine. So the new guys coming in, I'm excited about. I have no idea who they are, but the guys that I've seen in this draft, there's some really good ones to pick from, and they're going to be skilled. They're going to be ready to go, and that's the part that encourages me. I think attrition happens every year, some years more than others. I'm really happy for Rex. He stood by quietly, did his thing, and was a great team player, and now he ended up getting rewarded for it in the way that suited him. And that's good for him. And that happened to all these guys. And so maybe it's not the place for them and us, the marriage right now, but there'll be other guys that want to marry it. So we'll go find those guys, and we'll go through the draft and find out who they are. We'll find more good players like we have been doing, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think the key to the 5-year playoff run was the fact that the Bengals always drafted as well as anybody.
Yeah, and all those guys are under 4 and 5 year contracts at prices that are in your favor as a club, and we kept all those guys together, and we had a nice run.
So, what are you looking at as an offensive coordinator first to improve your team? Would it be offensive line right now?
Well, that's part of it. I don't know if there's guys sitting in this draft that you're going to draft that are coming and start for you, but there are other positions that can come in and do that. It's a really, really deep at the skill position. The tight ends are really good. The receivers and running backs are really deep. There's a lot to choose from in there. And one thing we need on offense, we need speed. We need speed to our group. So I think there's an opportunity to add speed this year, in particular, a lot more than last year. And it'll be interesting to see how we put it all together and who we pick and why and how we fill this roster out. We've had
all right, so from looking at the players out there, I mean, is there anybody or any names that stick out that have really impressed you? Maybe not something you may not even be interested in that position, but just some guys that really stick out.
Yeah, there was bunches of them down there at the Senior Bowl that were very, very good. I'm not sure if I get to speak on any of these things. I think there's a rule against us talking about these guys coming out, so I just think that there's certain positions that are heavy and there's some that are very, very good.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way around it, but I don't think I pulled that off. So
that's why we think, right?
But yeah, but like I said, I know you're on vacation right now, so I really appreciate you calling in. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but would love to talk to you after the draft if that's possible.
Sure, we'll do it.
All right, thanks, Coach.
For sure, Mike. Take care.
All right, guys. That was Bengals offensive coordinator Ken Zampese. Want to remind you guys to check out our main sponsor, Gridiron Mode, www.gridironmode.com. Check out all of our legend shows in the past. We've had guys like Kenny Anderson on, Lamar Parrish, Gary Burley, Reggie Williams. So make sure you check that out also. You can find all of our articles, all of our shows on www.grillingtruth.net. You can hear all of our shows on iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Music, pretty much anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So for Coach Ken Zampese, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.